Welcome to episode 2 of How to Start a Business, the podcast that teaches you everything you need to know about launching your own venture. I'm your host, Debbie, and in this episode, we're going to talk about how to validate your business idea. Validating your business idea is one of the most crucial and often overlooked steps in starting a business. It means testing your assumptions and getting feedback from your potential customers before investing too much time, money, and energy into your product or service. Why is validating your business idea important? Because it can help you avoid wasting resources on something that nobody wants or needs. Discover and solve problems that you might not have anticipated. Improve and refine your value proposition and product market fit. Build trust and credibility with your customers and stakeholders. Increase your chances of success and growth. But how do you validate your business idea? There are many ways to do it, and in this episode, we're going to cover some of the most effective ones. We're going to look at how to define your hypothesis and metrics, conduct customer interviews and surveys, create and test a minimum viable product (MVP), analyze and iterate based on the results. By the end of this episode, you should have a clear idea of how to validate your business idea and make sure it has a market demand and a competitive edge. So let's get started. The first step in validating your business idea is to define your hypothesis and metrics. This means stating what you believe to be true about your product or service, your customers, and your market, and how you will measure whether your assumptions are correct or not. To define your hypothesis and metrics, you can use a simple template such as: I believe that target customer has problem or need. I believe that my product or service can solve problem or need by value proposition. I believe that target customer will behavior or outcome if my product/service is available. I will know that I'm right if metric or goal. For example, if you are creating a podcast about how to start a business, your hypothesis and metrics could look something like this. I believe that aspiring entrepreneurs have a problem of not knowing how to start a business. I believe that my podcast can solve this problem by teaching them everything they need to know about launching their own venture. I believe that aspiring entrepreneurs will listen to my podcast and apply what they learn if it is available. I will know that I'm right if I get at least 1,000 downloads per episode in the first month. The key is to make your hypothesis and metrics specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Smart. Once you have defined your hypothesis and metrics, you can move on to the next step. The second step in validating your business idea is to conduct customer interviews and surveys. This means talking to or asking questions to your potential customers to understand their problems, needs, preferences, behaviors, and feedback. To conduct customer interviews and surveys, you can use methods such as online surveys, a set of questions that you can send to your target audience via email, social media, or platforms such as SurveyMonkey or Typeform. Interviews, a one-on-one conversation that you can have with your target customers via phone, video call, or in person. Focus groups, a group discussion that you can facilitate with a small number of target customers in a moderated setting. Observation, a method of watching and recording how your target customers behave in their natural environment or in relation to your product or service. You can also use tools such as Google Forms, Calendly, Zoom, or user testing to create and conduct your customer interviews and surveys. The goal is to find out who are your target customers and what are their characteristics. What are their problems, needs, goals, and desires related to your product or service? How do they currently solve their problems or fulfill their needs? What are their expectations and satisfaction levels with the existing solutions? How do they perceive your product or service and its value proposition? What are their objections, concerns, or questions about your product or service? How likely are they to use or buy your product or service? The key is to ask open-ended questions that encourage your customers to share their thoughts and feelings, and to listen actively and empathetically to their responses. Once you have collected enough data from your customer interviews and surveys, you can move on to the next step. The third step in validating your business idea is to create and test a minimum viable product (MVP). This means creating a simplified version of your product or service that you can launch quickly and cheaply to test its core features and benefits with real customers. To create and test an MVP, you can use methods such as landing page, a web page that showcases your product or service and collects leads or signups from interested customers. Prototype, a mock-up or a simulation of your product or service that you can use to demonstrate its functionality and design. Pilot, a small-scale or limited-time launch of your product or service to a selected group of customers or users. Experiment, a controlled test of your product or service that measures its performance and outcomes against a hypothesis or a goal. You can also use tools such as WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, Figma, InVision, Shopify, Gumroad, or Leanpub to create and test your MVP. The goal is to measure customer validation. How many people are interested in your product or service? How many people are willing to pay for it? How many people are satisfied with it? Product validation. How well does your product or service solve your customers' problems or fulfill their needs? How well does it perform against your competitors? How well does it fit your vision and values? The key is to create an MVP that delivers the most value to your customers with the least effort and cost, and to test it with real customers in real situations. Once you have tested your MVP and collected enough data, you can move on to the next step. The fourth and final step in validating your business idea is to analyze and iterate based on the results. This means reviewing the data and feedback that you gathered from your tests and making changes or improvements to your product or service accordingly. To analyze and iterate based on the results, you can use methods such as data analysis, a process of organizing, interpreting, and presenting the quantitative data that you collected from your tests using tools such as Google Analytics, Excel, or Tableau. Feedback analysis, a process of summarizing, categorizing, and prioritizing the qualitative feedback that you collected from your customers using tools such as Google Sheets, Airtable, or Trello. A/B testing, a method of comparing two versions of your product or service to see which one performs better on a specific metric using tools such as Optimizely, Unbounce, or VWO. Lean Canvas, a tool that helps you map out and update your business model based on your learnings using platforms such as LeanStack, Kanbanizer, or Strategizer. The goal is to validate or invalidate your hypothesis and metrics. Identify what works and what doesn't work for your product or service. Discover new insights and opportunities for improvement. Decide whether to proceed, pivot, or perish your idea. The key is to be objective, data-driven, and customer-centric in your analysis and iteration. That's it for episode 2 of How to Start a Business. In this episode, we learned how to validate our business idea by following these 4 steps. Define our hypothesis and metrics. Conduct customer interviews and surveys. Create and test an MVP. Analyze and iterate based on the results. I hope you found this episode helpful and informative. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me at debbie@yenloft.com.ng. I would love to hear from you. In the next episode, we're going to talk about how to write a business plan. We're going to learn how to structure, write, and present a document that outlines your business goals, strategies, and actions. Stay tuned for that. Thank you for listening to How to Start a Business. I'm your host, Debbie, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.